The justification for astronomical CEO pay in America is that it is merely a reflection of the sterling value that these Ubermenschen contribute, not just to their companies, but to the US economy as a whole. Yet even if somebody should throw a load of BS like that at you, what people really mean when they talk about value is that these CEOs pump up their company's stock price, and that's what makes them worth every exorbitant penny. But here's the truly hilarious thing. This justification might not even be true. Two studies that came out around the same time, in 2010, reached the same conclusion. Lavish CEO pay does not boost shareholder value. In fact, it can undermine it. One study compared the 10% of companies whose CEOs were paid the most. They found that these CEOs earned low returns in both the short and long term, with results getting worse over time. The other study looked at CEO pay slice, the chunk of total compensation going to the CEO divided amongst the top 5 corporate executives. Companies that gave the CEO a bigger chunk were more likely to suffer a panoply of negative consequences, including lower stock returns. Another popular justification for stratospheric CEO pay is the brain drain defense, also known as the pay 'em or lose 'em excuse. Top US managers must get the most lavish pay on earth because if a company doesn't reward them sufficiently, they'll just be poached by the competition. But this justification is based on a false premise. A study by Charles Elson and Craig Ferrer notes that there is a very limited market for CEOs to change jobs. The idea that top executives can easily transfer their skill set from one company to another is just plain wrong. As Elson told the New York Times, it's a false paradox. We found that CEO skills are very firm specific. CEOs don't move very often, but when they do, they're flops. So why has CEO pay been leaving everybody else in the dust? CEOs aren't just pulling away from the working class, they're pulling away from other ultra-rich too. Big-time corporate chieftains make about 5 times what other workers, even in the top 0.01%, make. The reason these executives make so much is peer grouping. As Matthew Iglesias sums up, American CEOs are paid a lot largely because other American CEOs are also paid a lot. The truth is that nobody really knows how much a CEO should be paid, so there's a self-reinforcing tendency to keep up with the Joneses. American execs say their pay should be compared to what other American executives are making. This is a persuasive argument for the corporate boards who make decisions about CEO pay because corporate boards are made up almost entirely of other highly paid American executives. Corporate boards start their pay review process by comparing their executive pay packages to similar companies. High-priced bankers are compared to other high-priced bankers. Tech execs get compared to tech execs, and so on. As Elson and Ferrer say, this process creates a model of a competitive market for executives where it otherwise does not exist. Wages are bid up to an executive's outside opportunities. One imagines that in this convivial atmosphere where the executives on corporate boards are more than happy to heap compensation onto the CEO, knowing full well that the gravy train is likely headed in their own direction. Boards also live with the unrealistic fear that if they don't fork over enough compensation, their star CEO will decamp for greener boardrooms. And so CEO pay keeps climbing to even more dizzying heights. Yet American CEOs never seem to live in fear that much cheaper international honchos will ever replace them at the top. It's perfectly fine for these same executives to close factories and replace more expensive American workers with vastly cheaper Chinese or Indonesian workers, but for some reason, top American executives stay safe and superbly compensated. Akio Toyoda never seems to show up on Ford's shortlist when it's time to hire a new CEO. Curious. The more I learn about the justifications for outrageous CEO pay, the more unjustifiable I think it is. Yet our political system rolls merrily along. Both major parties happily accepting legalized bribes to keep the good times rolling for this overpaid subset of Americans who intentionally suppress everyone else's wages. Why should we accept this? The answer is that we don't have to. We can put a stop to it if we want, and I think we should. Please like, follow, favorite, and subscribe to my free Substack. Let's make them pay us more money.